You didn't vote for either candidate, but you've been very vocal about both of them. I know you funded the Never Trump movement. What does a Trump presidency mean for Silicon Valley, for technology, for the future?
Well, I don't think anybody really knows with any degree of confidence. Trump took very different positions all across the last 18 months, and anybody even close to him that tells you will admit that they don't know exactly what he really believes. So it's going to be an interesting 4 years. Obviously, the Republicans won at all levels in the government, and that's a little bit more predictable, like what the Republican congressmen stand for, what Republican senators will stand for, what Republican governors will do. So we should see less taxation, less regulation. Improvement in flexibility for tech startups basically is the highlight, because government constrains the innovation of technology, and there should be a degree of freedom that we haven't seen in a while.
That said, a lot of uncertainty, especially around actual policy initiatives. Brad, of course, we know he feuded with Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, on Twitter.
That's right, and he said he would block the AT&T Time Warner merger. I mean, the paradox is that he campaigned as a populist, but he's a Republican, and he has surrounded himself with pro-business Republicans like Jeff Sessions and Chris Christie. And so you don't know how much to take him on his campaign trail word. He said at one point that Apple needs to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., right? I mean, and these are things that really aren't even in the president's control. On the other hand, he's talked about repatriation for overseas capital. He's talked about lowering the corporate tax rate. And these are things that maybe Silicon Valley likes, so we'll have to see.
Apple, interestingly, ended up the day actually slightly up. Abe, you actually wrote that Trump could be good for tech companies in the long term. Tell us what you mean.
Not exactly in those terms, but what I meant was that if we get the tax repatriation, that helps a lot of the tech companies. If you look at it, you talked about Apple. Apple has more than $100 billion stashed away outside of the US. You look at tech companies, large tech companies, they've probably, I don't have the exact numbers, but probably have more than $1 trillion stashed outside of the US. So when that comes in, where does that go? Probably goes into investing in the business, but you can't invest that kind of money back into the business. It's going to probably go into buybacks. It's probably going to go into M&A. So there's going to be a lot of companies. We saw good pace of M&A this year that can accelerate next year as we get more money back into the country. You could get buybacks, which investors like, so that can help the stocks for some of the companies like that of Apple. You could get more dividends. So a lot of those activities can come out of these decisions.